So one of my best friends, she's not here today. She was human trafficked by Naomi Campbell. And Naomi is also Diddy's the godmother. So she started meeting with all these famous people, and they connected her with certain people. And then all of a sudden she's at these parties and I see she's doing drugs and getting out of control. And eventually I had to start rescuing her from parties. And then a few of the times I had to rescue her from Naomi Campbell's apartment.
In containers with his shipment of there were kids in there that didn't speak English. There were kids that were sick and that were already dying. There were babies. They were 6 years old. And I'll never forget them just crying, and everybody was just staring at them. Everybody was just staring at each other. Nobody knew whether or not to move.
Direct character assassination. I've always said that I'm not a saint, that I am a work in progress, but I will not be held hostage by my past. What he's done, introduced him on my 31st birthday by my ex-boyfriend Flavio. He was always front and center at Victoria's Secret shows.
Did you suspect what he was doing?
No. And what he's done is indefensible. And when I heard of what he'd done, it sickened me to my stomach, just like everybody else. Because I've had my fair share of predators. And thank God that I had good people around me that protected me from this. I mean, right now I stand with the victims. I can't, they're scarred for life.
One of my best friends, she's not here today. She was human trafficked by Naomi Campbell. And Naomi is also Diddy's the godmother. So she started meeting with all these famous people, and they connected her with certain people. And then all of a sudden she's at these parties and I see she's doing drugs and getting out of control. And eventually I had to start rescuing her from parties. And then a few of the times I had to rescue her from Naomi Campbell's apartment, sleep over. And then I would pick her up and bring her to her apartment because she was so high on.
What kind of she doing?
Everything. She had they provide the drug to you. So she would open her purse and it would just be everything, whatever you wanted. It was like a pharmacy.
Who would open the purse?
Oh, she would. Oh, she's like, what do you need, Babs? Do you need anything? I said, I don't do anything. Oh, come on, just smoke a joint with me. I'm like, I'm not smoking anything. I didn't trust her anymore either.
People take pride in sticking bars up children. I don't think people are going to be able to stomach the fact that people tie 2, 3, 4, 5-year-old children to horse stables and have horses and dogs with them, and then they get off on that. I don't think people are going to be able to stomach the fact that people hang upside down in satanic ritual meetings, and they literally hang them. Literally, by metal prongs, they hang them to get dripping out of them, and people go up under and like you're under a rainfall to take their blood.
Naomi was coming to Nairobi to do some shopping. She was on holiday but on a remote place, so she was in Nairobi doing shopping, and I texted her and she told me she's in Nairobi, so I was so excited to meet her. She was the first celebrity I was ever going to meet. Guys, I was through the roof. She texted me, she was like, hey, I'm here. She texted me the location. I went directly. I went with my brother. So my brother and I, we met her, we did some shopping. And as we're shopping, she's like, oh, the plane that's taking us back actually has a couple more seats. Do you and your brother want to join us on holiday? Hell yes. So I was like, oh, that'll be so lovely. She introduced me to a couple of people, in Hollywood, people she was on vacation with were coming to Nairobi after the vacation. They were staying at the Kempinski. So I went to see them at the Kempinski when the whole thing was over. So I sat down with them, I was talking to one of them, and one of them was like, oh, it's so, like, how did you meet Naomi? And I was like, oh no, I texted her on Instagram, blah, blah. And she was like, oh yeah, she told us like she made you and she built you and she made your career. And I was like, what? No, that's not what happened. And I was like, you mean like helped me and like promoted me? And she was like, no, like what you have is because of her. And I was like, oh yeah, no, that didn't happen. Time goes by. March 2022. We have jumped into March 2022. I get a phone call. My phone is ringing. Naomi Campbell. Oh, so I pick up, I'm like, hey sis, like, how are you doing? And she's like, Elsa, how dare you? Oh! So I'm in shock, right? I'm in shock. I don't know what's going on. She was like, this is the last time I'm speaking to you. Have a nice life. And she hung up, which I was very saddened by the situation, right? But I was like, if that's how she truly feels, because I respect people's space. So I was like, if that's how she truly feels, fine, it's okay. So I let it go. So after that, like a few months, things started going very badly for me. Things started going haywire. And I didn't think it was, I thought it was because of the situation, let me not lie. But I was like, also it can be sure. So I was like, let me go, because also having someone like Naomi Campbell not liking you in the industry is not a good thing. So I went to her, I apologized. I'd already apologized when the situation had happened, but I went and I apologized again and again. I started calling her, I started texting her, and then one day she just texted me and she was like, stop calling me. I have a child to take care of. So after that, I just said, okay, there's nothing I can do about it. I started drinking. That's why I even quit alcohol. I started drinking. I started drinking a lot. Yeah. And then, because I wasn't sure why things were going so wrong and I couldn't put my finger on it. And then a few months later, I met Edward Enifel at a party, and Edward Enifel is oh my goodness, he's one of the people I adore the most. So I was like, oh my goodness, that's Edward, I have to go say hi. So I'm like, hey Edward, I'm such a big fan. And he looks at me, he's like, I know you. And then he said something that made me think the situation with Naomi was causing like some of the trials and tribulations.
A diamond from Charles.
I didn't receive a diamond, and I'm not going to speak about that. Thank you very much. And I'm not here for that.
Well, we've been told that you didn't help the prosecution sort of in this very important case.
Sorry.
Thank you so much. Goodbye.
Sorry. But what she told ABC News was a lie. She did receive diamonds from Taylor, as she acknowledged under oath today, describing a bizarre middle-of-the-night scene outside her bedroom.
When I was sleeping, I had a knock at my door, and I opened my door, and two men were there and gave me a pouch and said, a gift for you.
Did you ask them who they were?
No, I was extremely tired. When they gave me the pouch, I just put it next to my bed and went back to bed.
What did you think the stones were?
They were kind of dirty looking pebbles. They were dirty, I don't know. When I'm used to seeing diamonds, shiny and in a box, If someone hadn't said they were diamonds, I wouldn't have guessed right away that they were diamonds.
What if one of the most untouchable icons in fashion wasn't just brushing shoulders with power, but operating in spaces most people will never truly understand? Because right now, Naomi Campbell is once again at the center of a storm, and this time, the allegations aren't just about attitude or industry drama. They hint at something far darker lurking beneath decades of fame, influence, and carefully curated image. It all reignited when Ally Carter began speaking out, loudly, repeatedly, and with claims so intense they instantly divided the internet. Some dismissed her outright, calling her stories too extreme to believe. Others leaned in, pointing out that she's been talking about powerful figures and hidden industry behavior long before certain names and scandals became public. She doesn't present herself as polished or strategic, which, oddly enough, is exactly why some people find her compelling. She sounds raw, unfiltered, and whether that makes her unreliable or brutally honest depends entirely on who you ask. But what pulled people in wasn't just the scale of her claims. It was the personal stories woven into them. Ally describes watching someone close to her get pulled into elite circles connected to Naomi. At first, it looked like a dream. Access, connections, proximity to fame. The kind of opportunity most people would never turn down. But slowly, that excitement turned into something else. The parties became more intense, the behavior more erratic. She claims her friend began losing control, experimenting with substances, staying out for days, becoming unrecognizable. What started as curiosity allegedly spiraled into dependency, and Ally says she found herself stepping in again and again, pulling her out of situations that felt increasingly unsafe. Some of those moments, she claims, even involved having to retrieve her friend from spaces tied directly to Naomi's environment. That shift from glamorous to chaotic to alarming is what made people stop scrolling and start listening. And that's where the narrative begins to widen. Because Ally doesn't just stop at personal experience, she connects those moments to a much bigger, much more unsettling picture. She hints at networks of influence, environments where power operates without oversight, and gatherings that blur the line between exclusivity and secrecy. The way she tells it, these aren't just parties, they're controlled spaces where status, access, and silence all intertwine. To be clear, these claims remain unverified, and many are difficult to substantiate. But their intensity and the confidence with which she delivers them has kept people watching, questioning, and digging deeper. Naturally, attention quickly shifted to Naomi Campbell's long-documented proximity to some of the most controversial figures in modern history. Names like Jeffrey Epstein, Sean Combs, and Harvey Weinstein began resurfacing in conversations, not because of new accusations, but because of old associations that suddenly felt more relevant. Public records and past reports have shown overlapping social circles, appearances at the same events, and in some cases, documented contact. Naomi has addressed these connections before, consistently maintaining that she was unaware of any criminal behavior and emphasizing her support for victims. Still, critics argue that repeated proximity raises questions that don't go away easily, especially in hindsight. And when you step back, some observers say this doesn't feel like a series of isolated coincidences. It feels like a pattern. Over the years, Naomi's name has surfaced in multiple high-profile controversies, including her involvement in the case surrounding Charles Taylor and the so-called blood diamonds. At first, she denied receiving anything. Later, under oath, she acknowledged being given stones by unknown individuals in the middle of the night, an explanation that raised eyebrows and sparked even more scrutiny when others present at the time contradicted parts of her account. Again, none of this proves wrongdoing beyond what's already been established legally, but it contributes to a larger narrative that people are now re-examining with fresh eyes. And that's really where things stand. A mix of unverified allegations, documented associations, and resurfaced controversies, all colliding at once in a way that's impossible to ignore. Whether this is the beginning of something bigger or just another wave of internet-fueled speculation depends on what comes next. But one thing is certain. The conversation around Naomi Campbell isn't fading anytime soon, and the deeper people look, the more questions they seem to find. And just when people thought the story couldn't get any stranger, the internet did what it does best, zoomed in, connected dots, and started asking questions about symbolism that had been hiding in plain sight this entire time. Because one detail that keeps resurfacing in discussions around Naomi Campbell isn't a person, it's a place. Her ultra-exclusive luxury property, often described as being designed in the shape of the Eye of Horus, has become a focal point for speculation. Now, on its own, that could easily be written off as artistic inspiration. The Eye of Horus is, after all, an ancient Egyptian symbol tied to protection, power, and restoration. But online, people are looking at it through a very different lens. In conspiracy circles, symbols like that are often interpreted as markers of influence, control, or alignment with elite ideologies. Again, none of this proves anything on its own, but in a climate where audiences are already questioning power structures, even aesthetic choices start to feel loaded with meaning. And that's really how these theories gain traction, not because of one single detail, but because of how many pieces seem to overlap. You've got a high-profile figure, long-standing connections to controversial names, and now a visual symbol that some believe represents dominance and surveillance. Add that to decades of whispered rumors about secretive gatherings among the ultra-elite, everything from masked events to exclusive invite-only circles, and suddenly, what might have once sounded far-fetched starts feeling, at the very least, worth questioning for some people. It's important to stress that these interpretations are speculative, often fueled by online communities that thrive on decoding symbolism. But their influence is undeniable, especially when stories like this are already under a microscope. And just as the conversation was reaching peak intensity, Another voice entered the chat. This time, someone from a completely different generation of fame. Elsa Majimbo, known for her sharp humor and rapid rise on social media, shared her own experience involving Naomi Campbell. Unlike the abstract theories and secondhand claims, Elsa's story felt immediate, personal, and relatable, something audiences could actually picture happening in real time. She describes being a young, rising influencer, suddenly finding herself in the orbit of one of fashion's most powerful figures. At first, it was everything you'd expect: excitement, opportunity, validation. She recalls being invited into exclusive spaces, introduced to high-profile individuals, and made to feel like she was stepping into a completely new level of access. But according to Elsa, things began to shift. Conversations and interactions started to feel less organic and more strategic, as if there were expectations attached that hadn't been made clear up front. Eventually, she says she distanced herself from the situation entirely. What happened next is what really caught people's attention. Elsa claims that after that fallout, her career trajectory changed in ways she couldn't immediately explain. Opportunities slowed down, interactions within the industry felt different, and she began to suspect that her decision to step away may have had consequences. Now, to be clear, there's no public evidence directly linking those challenges to Naomi Campbell, and correlation doesn't equal causation. But in the context of everything else being discussed, her story added another layer, another perspective that seemed to echo the same underlying theme. Proximity to power can come with unseen risks. At this point, it's crucial to separate what's known from what's alleged. Naomi Campbell has consistently denied any wrongdoing in connection to the more serious claims circulating online. There is no confirmed evidence supporting many of the darker accusations being discussed, and several of the narratives originate from sources that remain unverified. At the same time, the public isn't just reacting to one claim. They're reacting to a combination of stories, associations, and resurfaced moments that, together, create a sense of unresolved questions. And in today's digital landscape, perception can sometimes move faster than proof. So, where does that leave the story? Somewhere in the middle of fact, speculation, and a growing demand for transparency. On one side, you have a global icon with decades of influence, firmly denying any connection to wrongdoing. On the other, you have a mix of whistleblower claims, personal accounts, and internet-driven theories that refuse to fade away. And right now, neither side seems to be backing down. Which brings us to the real question. This isn't just about what's already been said. It's about what hasn't come out yet. Because if more voices step forward, or if new information surfaces, this entire narrative could shift overnight. And if nothing else happens, then why do these stories keep resurfacing, growing louder each time? Either way, one thing is certain. This conversation is far from over, and the next chapter might be the one that changes everything.